Globally, human trafficking is the fastest growing criminal enterprise. Within 1 kilometer of you, someone is being lured into becoming the next victim.
Human trafficking is the buying and selling of people for profit. It's the modern-day slave trade, to be very honest with you. And the average age of entry into the sex human trafficking trade is 13 years of age.
Traffickers will use many different methods in order to connect with victims, but wherever kids are, so too will there be predators. In today's world, kids spend so much time online and on social channels that, in fact, predators now have reach beyond anything that they've had in the past with respect to accessing individuals that are vulnerable.
They target young kids, they become their friends, and sometimes even boyfriends, girlfriends, with the point of wanting to get their trust. And once they get their trust, they gradually make sure that they separate these people from their support systems. What they want to do is get complete power over them.
Human trafficking seems to flourish in the quiet, in the dark, in the unknown. People really can be destroyed for lack of knowledge. And so when we educate young people, educate parents, educate teachers, educate people in positions of authority, but also educating the Johns. Let's not be afraid to have this conversation, because if they're not aware of it, they're more likely to be sucked into it.
Our goal is to stop human trafficking on the North American continent and in Canada. And to do that, education is our greatest weapon.
About 13 years ago, in and around there, I finally got out of human trafficking. And at the time, I didn't know I was being trafficked. I was under the impression that I was just in a very narcissistically abusive, messed up relationship. Joy had come to the town where I live to give a presentation, and I was like, well, I guess I'll just go watch this presentation. And as I'm sitting there, she's going through the signs of grooming and luring and what it looks like. And I had probably the biggest epiphany I've ever had in my life. And I just broke down in tears and realized in that moment that this is what had happened to me. And when I say huge weight was lifted off my shoulders in that moment, it was borderline a spiritual experience. That it was just so relieving to know that I no longer had to be responsible for all these horrible things that happened to me, that there was some language surrounding my experiences, and it was very freeing for me.
Survivors and families carry a lot of blame and shame for what has happened. As a society overall, people need to be very clear on the fact that the blame and shame for something like this sits with the predators that do this, and it doesn't sit with the victims or their families.
Joy Smith's life story is a testament to the impact one individual can make. From a school teacher to a member of parliament, passing crucial bills to combat trafficking, Joy is a beacon of hope.
I was teaching grade 9 math and science, and one of my students landed up on the streets, and I couldn't figure that out. I didn't know about human trafficking, but I started studying, and I found out we had no laws in Canada to combat human trafficking. So I said, I'm going to the province, and I'm going to get elected, and I'm going to combat human trafficking. But I went to the province and I found out that was the wrong place. It was really the federal laws. So I naively ran for office. They told me I'd never win, but I did. And I was there for over 12 years and actually made Canadian history twice by 2 laws. Bill 268, mandatory minimums for traffickers of children 18 years and under, and Bill C-310, which reaches the long arm of the law into other countries where we can bring traffickers who are permanent residents of Canada or citizens of Canada back to Canada to be tried. So after 12 years, that the laws had been passed, and so I felt I had done my job. But I was wrong, because the survivors who I worked with so many years, he contacted me and told me that their voice would go away. And so I made a promise to them their voice wouldn't go away. So I started the Joy Smith Foundation to combat human trafficking.
The Joy Smith Foundation unites people and breaks down barriers for survivors, making communities more aware of human trafficking and suppressing traffickers' methods.
I am filled with gratitude for my daughter and my family, 3 generations that have stepped up to help me in the foundation.
I've spent a lot of years connected with my mom and the work that she's done in Parliament, and it's something that once you learn about it, it's hard to not want to do something more about it. And I just found that the more I learned over the years, the more I was pulled towards helping and supporting the work at the foundation. That we want to continue to grow and scale the programming that's available. We have a vision for having an on-site center where survivors can have room and space to heal and restore their lives. And it really is a vision that comes out of what we learn from survivors on a daily basis as we see them work so hard to restore their lives and change the path going forward.
The foundation going forward is kind of breaking into a new area of being able to educate, and that is on podcast platform. And what we think that our podcast is bringing to the table is bringing very realistic, down-to-earth, real-life stories right into people's devices and homes to remove some of those stigmas. Our podcast is going to be named Luma and Bloom with Nick and Kate, and we're pretty excited about it.
Join the Joy Smith Foundation and be part of the solution. Visit joysmithfoundation.com today.